Hello, everyone, and welcome to a very special episode of the 1973 podcast. We're here with former pro hockey player and author George Pesut. George, we want to start by always saying that hopefully by the end of this, friend of the show, and also we want to wish you a happy birthday, everybody watching. It's so epic that you spent time with us on your birthday, and we can't be more ecstatic to have you on the show. So we're going to talk book. We're going to talk hockey background. We're going to talk hockey stories. We're going to chirp with the fellas. We're all ready to go.
Okay, thanks a lot, guys.
So take us back. We always ask, take us back to when you were a kid, how you got going with the greatest sport in the world, professional hockey.
Well, I grew up in the province of Saskatchewan, which I didn't know till a few years ago. Ron McLean on Hockey Night in Canada said it produced the most hockey players of all the provinces in Canada, which,
Oh, wow.
considering the populations of Quebec and Ontario, I didn't even realize that myself. But I know I used to run the ice back in the 70s for the pros when I played, and we had like 40 NHL players in Saskatoon alone,
Wow.
from the surrounding area. So I grew up in a little small town, blink of an eye, 500 people, 40 miles north of Saskatoon, Saskatchewan. Didn't play in a covered rink till I was 16 years old. Some of the neighboring towns, if you want to call it a covered rink, it was just a roof. But when the coldest I remember is minus 55, so that doesn't help too much to protect you from the cold. So I grew up in the ponds, the dugouts, and played my way. I guess the big year was when I was 15. I think I was 6 foot, 185 pounds already, and I played for 5 teams in the same season. I played midget, high school, juvenile, senior hockey already, and then one provincial team. I remember having 5 games all in the same night with 5 different teams. And as a kid, I felt bad, playing for one. So actually, I decided to go watch a movie in the city, and I didn't play for anybody because I thought it wasn't fair, kind of thing. But that 15th year, I almost made junior A with Saskatoon Blades. I was a centerman. I was a forward before I became a defenseman, and I was the last cut. All the people in the small town figured they wouldn't see me again, but I came back and, like I said, 5 different teams. I was playing almost every night, kind of thing.
Did you wind up with the wrong team, going to a wrong practice? Did I read something about that in
Yeah,
Saskatoon?
I did 2 of those. I went to the wrong high school. I'm Croatian background. My family from Croatia. They lost today in the World Cup, unfortunately. Uh, but I went to the wrong high school. My last year was in the city, which was a big thing for me because I was used to like 12, 15 kids in a classroom in the country. So I enrolled in the wrong school to start with, walked by the Catholic school. And then I was supposed to go to the Blades like farm team in tier one hockey. And I ended up going to the wrong practice, and I went to the Saskatoon Max Junior B, and it was kind of a blessing. I knew some of the guys from school, and they're all good guys. And we won everything in the province that year. We won the Junior B, the provincials, and then the icing on the cake is we were in the Saskatoon Winter Games, which had every province in Canada competing against each other and represented the province. So it turned out to be, a good year, considering I went to the wrong team.
That's great. That's
George
great.
and
And that's the year I switched my coach. I don't know exactly why, but I was always like a big high scoring centerman. And at that tournament at 17 and a half, he switched me over to D. So I didn't play D till I was 17 and a half.
Mm.
but that
Yeah.
worked out well though, because you were named top defenseman in what, 72, 73.
Yeah, I won the best D in the Western Canada League, and I was first team All Star. So I guess I learned my trade pretty quickly.
Right,
I,
right.
Yeah.
I could
Yeah.
I could tell you a quick story about a friend of
Sure.
Brian Trottier, who you guys all know. Uh, Trotch was actually a defenseman before he became
Oh,
a
wow.
centerman, and he was playing against Medicine Hat, and I think Tommy Lysiak or McDonald, one of the two, undressed him about 2-3 times, and then his coach went up to him and said, "You know what, Trotch, I think you better play forward. Defense isn't for you, you know." So that worked out pretty good for Trotch.
Yeah.
Just a little bit. Just a little bit.
Do you think that helped him? He was a great passer. So you do think that was something that really contributed to that, is playing on the back end, seeing the ice, and then transitioning into center? Was that something that, and that helped you also when you switched? Was this something that,
Yeah, I think if you can play, if you've played all the positions, just like when I used to coach kids in minor hockey, it's good to get a feeling to play all the positions, you know,
yeah,
because later on, you know, the cream always rises to the top as a player, so to speak, you know.
yep.
So yeah, I actually think it's kind of funny, but there was an experiment my first year pro with Larry Wilson, but Larry was kind of we used to call him a straight arrow. I'd call him a little bit of a prick, but I think he let me play center for about one period and then canned that idea. But that's in California with the Seals. Actually, I remember my claim to fame was I got first star of the game at all 5 positions.
Wow.
So center, I could play them all. Yeah, I had I think I had a lot of talent, but I was also a bit of a rebel, you know. Yeah.
Ed, do you have a question for George?
Sure. George, I'd like to take you back just a little bit. When did you realize that, like, that you could hold your own against maybe some of the older players or bigger players, that type of thing? And when did you feel like, that this could turn into a career for you?
Well, it's funny, but I always remember like our high school principal was like our hockey mentor, like you have in every town. There's one guy you look up to, and he was also an unorthodox softball pitcher. I was a pro softball pitcher too at one time. Anyway, he told me when I was getting my first stitches at 12 that I'd play in NHL, and I don't think it really registered. I was pretty shocked when he said at 12, but at 15 I was 6 foot 185. At 17 I was up to 222 pounds on the Toledos, which is pretty big. And then I leaned down, but I guess when I was 15 already, the inkling was that it's I had the tools in the toolbox to play the game.
And that's farm pounds too. That's 220 pounds from the farms in Saskatchewan, correct? Is that?
Yeah, I was carrying and I had like a Packy mustache and a long shoulder length hair. I was like a modern day Genghis Khan kind of on the blue line at the time.
Nice. Nice.
So George, the rare thing that people don't realize now that watch hockey, you were drafted by 2 teams in the NHL and the World Hockey League, St. Louis
Yes.
and the Crusaders.
Yeah.
Looking back on, we always ask the guys about their draft day. Do you have any really good draft day stories?
Well, it's good. I got a pretty good one. I remember Jerry Eman, they used to call him Screamer. He was head of player personnel for the Blues and then later Islanders. He called me naturally to say I was drafted 24th overall and everything else. And I thanked him and all that. And then Mr. Milletti, who's the owner of the Cleveland Crusaders, I think he was a sports owner at the time. Nick called me, Mr. Milletti, and said, he really like to have you in Cleveland because Lonnie McDonald was their first pick. He went to Toronto, so I was their top guy. So being the cocky kid, and I'd won all the awards, I said to Mr. Milletti, I said, here I am, a 19-year-old kid, probably we were making $250 a month at the time. I told him he couldn't probably pay me enough. So Mr. Milletti called my bluff and he said, well, kid, why don't you try me? What do you want? So I had heard some numbers floating around from my buddies at the time. And so I said to him, well, I like a boat, a house, and a car, 100,000 a sign, and 240,000 for 3 years. And he didn't blink an eye. He said, no problem. So then I said, that's 1973. That was a lot of dough. And I was a little shocked, so I had to go back to my agent, Herb Pinder Jr. And then we finally went back to St. Louis and back and forth. And I always wanted to play in the NHL. Maybe that it might have been a mistake, but the best one was then the press conference was said in St. Louis, and Mr. Milletti calls me back again. He says, "I know where you're flying to Winnipeg," and he knew my route and everything that was going on. He said, "Listen, you've got a 3-hour stopover in Winnipeg. I'll send my private jet and intercept you, take you to Cleveland. We'll talk some more shop, and then if you don't like it, we'll fly you to St. Louis." Well, I didn't really think that was going to happen, but I'm having a beer with Reggie Malinowski, my old junior teammate, and sure enough, the page comes to the airport, and there's the jet out there. And I go to Reggie, Jesus Christ, what am I going to do now, And so I flipped a coin, head St. Louis, tails Cleveland, and St. Louis won the coin flip. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yep. Well, you called yourself a rebel before, and that was the Rebel League. So do you ever think, the timing, obviously you played in both, you made it to the National Hockey League, and then you go to the WHA. Did you ever think maybe in reverse style, went to the WHA, obviously teams like Cleveland folded, and then you could have gone to the NHL. Was it the right thing for you to start in the NHL? This is what your goal was, go to the NHL and continue there.
Well, I think you're a little intimidated too as a kid. Like I always wanted to play in the NHL, but the money, like Cleveland would offer me even more money if I'd have went. But I could just, at that time, so now you get in the private jet, you go to Cleveland, call St. Louis. I'll be delayed a little bit because I caught another flight, to Cleveland. But say if I had a little more moxie, maybe, it wouldn't have been a bad negotiating ploy, to take that plane to Cleveland. But that's just the way it worked out at the time. And I did end up with Calgary Cowboys later with, as I described my book, Joe Crozier. He was, I guess, I think I had about 3 guys that were probably in the Mike Babcock kind of mold, I don't think they would have been in the game today, with all the shit that they pulled off, Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So if you had a cell phone back then, he would want to look at your cell phone and look at your pictures.
Yeah.
I'd probably be like, a 10,000 million hit on YouTube, probably,
We'll take that after this interview, George. We'll take that.
Yeah.
Take those hits.
Yeah.
How was your experience at your very first NHL training camp? Were there some characters there? Do you have any good rookie stories?
Oh, yeah. First of all, I remember the Hockey News now, she did an interview with me about the Blues, and being cocky as I was, I kind of said that I think I could make the team, and I'm probably better than some of the defensemen that are there right now. So I'm sure that's out well with the veterans, some of the veteran Blues guys. But I remember too, it was a bad camp because Davey Schultz and I were playing summer, and Davey poked me in the back of the leg. I think he broke a blood vessel. Then you think it's NHL and you got custom skates. The skates I had were too small, and they had to drill a hole in both my big toes because they were so infected. And then on top of that, I stepped on a puck. I don't think I ever pulled my groin in my life, and I stepped on a puck. So it was just like one. And then you're supposed to be, the big bonus baby, the can't miss prospect. I played the exhibition games, and I can remember. I'm sure you guys heard of Mad Dog Madigan, Connie Madigan. Mad Dog. Yeah, you think he made the NHL at 38, but he was in camp there. And it was so funny. I felt good for him because I'm sure, he played in the old Western League, didn't have much of a contract, and he won 10 grand playing poker in training camp there. So I felt good for him. The other guy that was funny is Johnny Davidson, who's, I think Johnny's with New York now.
Yeah.
He was the first pick. I was the second, and Bobby Gassoff was the third. Well, I think, Johnny was in most of those card games, and his slot at the hotel was full of messages from the babes. I don't think he slept more than a couple hours a night. And I don't think he let in a goal in his first 4 exhibition games, So, there were some Oh yeah, and I have a good Lou Angotti story. Lou was a pretty popular player at the time at Chicago, I guess, and he used to call his name Lou, and I put a pass in his skates, and the little prick stopped and started screaming at me, And I said, "Listen, Lou, that can happen." I said, "But you little fucking wop," I said, "if you do it again, I'm going to beat the shit out of you." I said, "You're on notice now." So
Nice.
Tommy Woodcock, who was a pretty good trainer in the NHL at the time, I skated by the boards, and I said to Tommy, I said, $100. I said, Lou's going to be flying in the air next practice. So Tommy said, "There's no way. He's a veteran. He's too sly. There's no way you can hit him. So practice the next day, you know, I had the guy skating on me, he thinks I'm going back. And the second he drops his head, I shift to forward gear. I hit him at center ice, and his stick and gloves were in the air, and he was in the air, landed down. He lost his wind. And then I went over to the boards and said, "Tommy, get that 100 ready for me. There's Lou laying on the ice there."
Now, were you ever in Blues camp with Steve Durbano by chance?
Oh yeah, so I should have Stevie. We used to call him Stevie Wonder. Wonder what he'll do next.
Oh my
He
God.
was the modern version of Genghis Khan. So we're playing an exhibition game. I think it was against Toronto or somebody. And I go back to the bench, and Barclay Plager's there. And I said to Bark, I said, "Every time I go back to the bench, I hear this banging noise. Do you know what it is?" And I remember when I lost it, it was kind of like over. I think I had speared a fan in the stands with my stick. I harpooned him. And then he said, "Yeah," he said, "Stevie fucked up on a pass there, and he's banging his head against the boards." He had one of those big bubble helmets. And and he said, "Oh," I said, "Isn't that wonderful? He messed up on a pass, and every time he come back to the bench, he'd be slamming his head against the boards there." And I can tell you the last game they played, and I'm pretty sure it was with the Blues, because Larry Sacherack, a good buddy of mine, was there at the time. I guess Stevie got thrown in the penalty box, which that was kind of his second home. And he was upset about something. He was going crazy. So he took his skates off in the penalty box and threw them at the referee. And then the referee naturally threw him out, and Stevie walked barefoot to the exit there on the ice.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. Yeah. Wild stories. Yeah. Rest in peace, Steve Durbano, but he was definitely
well, when he checked guys, like you could kind of get by him, but he just used his chest as a battering ram, and he'd be like a scarecrow. That's what he'd do at the blue line for any forward trying to get by him. So yeah, Stevie was definitely a character.
Yeah.
Yeah.
George, I want to ask you about your time with the SEALs. Now that whole organization, it was top to bottom, owner right on down, nothing but characters on that team.
Oh, did you say SEALs?
Yes. Yeah.
The last time I heard that, I fell off my dinosaur.
I have a throwback SEALs jersey on it that I've had a couple guys sign, like Reggie Leach, one of my favorites. Tell me.
I was traded for Reggie.
Yeah.
Yeah, a white guy traded for an Indian. It's not fair.
It doesn't get more NHL than that in the early 70s, right?
Well, I can tell you it's my first NHL game. We're playing in Kansas City. I got a report from Philly, and Marshall Johnson's the coach. He was a really good guy, a real players coach. So Joey Johnson, Joey the Jet, we called him. He was our captain. So here I'm getting ready for my first NHL game, regular season, and Marshall wants to talk to the captain. I figured, that's pretty normal, except I'm with the California Golden Seals, because Philly was like the penthouse, and now I'm in the country club, in Oakland. And he wouldn't go talk to him. Like, he blew Marshall off about 3-4 times, and I'm wondering what the hell is going on here. I'm scratching my head, and then I see Joey go into the washroom, and I go, I'm going to check this out, So why he can't talk to the coach, So I follow him into the washroom, and there's a poor, unsuspecting rookie with his feet hanging out the washroom door. So Joey decides to have a crap on his toes. That's the reason that and he couldn't talk to the coach. And I go, well, yeah, I know where I've landed now, you know.
Oh my goodness.
That's old time hockey, guys.
Oh,
Yeah, you think?
you know, we talk about it all the time. I mean, Joe Watson shared some stories about the Stanley Cup run with Bernie Perrant, and Andre Lacroix told some great World Hockey League stories where they were trying to get a men's penthouse magazine started, and they flew him to New York and all kinds of stuff. The World Hockey League and 70s hockey is right at it. If people don't think Slapshot is legit, I mean,
I played it in some of the leagues that I was in. But I remember the Fog. Funny story, you guys would like this. We're cleaning up everybody in the exhibition games. We were in Atlanta, and we'd beat the Flames. Like Flames had the biggest team in the league, but they were scared shitless of Philly. Like we intimidated. And I remember I was playing center for the Goon line for Schultze and Selesky and Hound Dog. Every time I give him the puck, it would come back square instead of round. And I skated in from center ice and just hammered Phil Muir into the goalpost. I led them in penalty minutes at training camp. And I looked around and I figured, somebody's got to fight me or something. And Barry Gibbs, the one old defenseman, he says, George, you shouldn't have done that. And I told Barry to fuck off and go back to the bench. And I looked at the bench and nobody comes off. And I go, holy Christ, So we're drinking up a storm in the bar that night. We're going to play Buffalo the next night. And we're in the bar till closing time, like 2:00, right? And I think it was about 1:00, there's a voice in the dark corner of the bar. And he said, hey, why don't I buy you pricks a drink tonight? The whole team, it's on me. And we're shouting and yelling at this guy. Yeah, I would love it, And out of the dark corner, who is it? The Fog. Shiro was in there the whole night watching our annex and chasing the babes and, drinking up a storm. And needless to say, that was a great tactic because the next night he didn't need to say a word in the dressing room because we were all guilty. And we kicked the shit out of Buffalo, I think something like 8-2 or something like that,
Nice.
So there's different ways to motivate.
Definitely. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Freddie and his quotes on the blackboard, right?
Yeah. Freddie, he didn't say a word because there's Nikolic and Ashby there, and they were such player guys. And Fred just did his own, Fred was in his own orbit, basically, Yeah.
Do you still have a pair of white skates by any chance? Or did you ever have a pair of white skates?
Oh, thank God. I was there the last 2 years there in the Bay, and I missed I don't know if I would have put them on or not, but our uniforms that we had, those teal, like Pacific blue, I felt like putting a rose in my teeth in the warm-up because they were so, we were basically ahead of our time. But back in the 70s, they weren't the prettiest. Let's say they weren't like the Boston Bruins uniform,
Right.
Close though.
Yeah.
Close.
Yeah.
Did you go to did you go to San Jose? I know they did an anniversary for the SEALs team. Were you invited out to San Jose for that at all? I saw Gary Simmons was there, a couple of the guys.
I don't know if they track me, but the real funny one, it's funny you say that. Everybody thinks that they are
Right.
I was actually good friends with George Gunn III, the ex-owner of the Sharks. We met in Europe, and I used to tour them around Berlin and all that. That's another story, but they really are, if you follow the history, the chronological history, they are really the Dallas Stars and not the Sharks.
Yep.
Because actually, my girlfriend's son lives down in Dallas, and we were at the practice. Well, we went. I can go in the alumni box there. My name was on the practice rink, so
nice.
It's a popular misconception, really.
Right.
Because they Cleveland, the Guns raped Minnesota, took half the team and the farm team created, but then they went to Dallas after the Stars. So yeah.
Good old Norman Green and his that was a crazy time when they were trying to build a new arena, and so were the Timberwolves, and just up and moved. So, but Minnesota
it's like Oakland. If they would have won the vote there and had the new arena in San Francisco, they probably would have stayed there,
Yeah.
Ed, you got a question?
I do. So how did you enjoy your summer hanging out on Cape Cod? Since the three of us are from Cape Cod, so
Yeah.
we're really close to it. So did you enjoy your time down there?
No, I'm in Victoria, British Columbia now, but the only time I was down in the Cape, because you probably know these guys. One guy was a big star at Boston University, Mike Heidman, and another guy named Rick Jordan. Rick played with the Nordiques in a few teams. Anyway, I visited the boys down there in the Cape, so I knew the casino bar, and I was there for the last long weekend when they had the Jello tubs on the beach. It was down in Falmouth. Yeah,
Okay.
so that's where I'm familiar. That was my on my way to Switzerland. That was my last weekend. That was quite the quite the way to spend my last weekend before heading to training camp.
For sure.
Yeah,
Yeah, Falmouth
yeah,
was a lot of fun for sure. I lived
yeah,
there for about 3 years, so yeah, for sure.
yeah.
Yep.
So the Calgary Cowboys, for the people that don't know, George, tell the people that are unfamiliar with that team.
Well, I left this. I basically told my agent Harvey Weinberg from Chicago. He was Hull's agent, and Harvey was a pretty big agent at the time. I just told him to. It's funny. I was the only player that was in the Bay Area at the time. Like I go, why am I going back to Saskatchewan? I'm going to live in the Bay Area, and I participated in this Bay Area decathlon and did all. I was a pretty good all-round athlete. So sorry. Let's go back to the question. Circle back. You were saying about the Bay.
Oh,
Can you
the time with the Calgary Cowboys.
Oh, the Cowboys. Yeah. So my agent got the best deal, which is a two-year one. I only had one-way contracts with the Cowboys. Only I didn't know that Joe Crozier was basically a loon. He was basically unstable. I remember years later after Frank Mahovlich, he's a Croatian guy, and we were having coffee before Legends game, and we started talking about all these different guys. And I said to Frank, yeah, I had Joe the Crow. And Frank says, yeah. He said, he's lost it. He said, I was in St. Michael's Church in Toronto one Sunday where I go each Sunday, and I've never seen the Crow in church. And he's at the front row. And after church was over, he stood up and said, hi, I'm Joe the Crow to every person in there because he'd lost it. And I told Frank, I knew that 40 years ago, the guy was like perfect example is like, we play the Winnipeg Jets with Hull and Hedberg and Nielsen. First, actually, because they used to be the Vancouver Blazers. We beat them 6-0 in Vancouver. We had to play a game there. So we absolutely killed them. We get back to Calgary, figure we're going to have a day off and go right from the airport to the practice rink because Crow had spotted some flaws in our game. And I go, what the fuck? So all we did for 2 hours was 3-on-0s, half the team on one side, half on the other. Goalies are going crazy because there's 10,000 passes going on. And you think to yourself, like, what did we accomplish doing 3-on-0s for 2 hours after beating the Jets 6-0? But the Crow he was deranged. There's no question about it.
And you said the goalies went crazy. A couple of good names there, Don McLeod and Gary Bromley. Were they crazy goalies? Typical 70 crazy nutty goalies. Any good stories?
Well, Smokey, as they called McLeod, who was the number one goalie. He was traded for a racehorse. That was a famous story because the Press family and the Sifton family, so they got him from Houston, and they actually sent a racehorse. They wanted this particular racehorse. And so that was the spicer in the deal to get Smokey.
Wow.
And I remember the first practice because something happened. And I remember I was because World Hockey wasn't as organized as NHL and the physicals and all that. So I somehow missed the first practice because it was messed up. And naturally Crow said, no problem, son. He called everybody son, even Gordie Howe. He called him son. So he said, and I go back in my end of the scrimmage, and the freaking biscuit is going right over my head. And I go, there's no one there. But Smokey had that curved stick, and he could wrist the puck from one end to the other. Wow. I mean, he was the goalie's best friend because, a goalie that can handle the puck is, golden to defensemen.
Yep.
And Smokey also needed an itinerary just to know what city he was in, because he played the horses all the time. He was big, like a gambler, and play the horses. But I remember one night we were in Phoenix, and Georgie Morrison, who was good friends with Smokey, and Smokey was a great guy. He'd bring the rookies over, to have dinner and all that, except he'd pass out and we'd be with his wife for the last couple hours, because he'd go to bed. But Georgie said, watch, he said, we're going to pay for Smokey's cab. And we did the magic trick with the drink, the empty and the full one, back and forth for a while. Called him the cab, and he says, you watch, he says, when we get back to the hotel, Smokey ain't going to be there, So sure enough, no Smokey there. Next day, we're playing the Roadrunners, and we're going to go for breakfast in the morning. And this big Cadillac with the horns on the front pulls up with these 4 big, like massive black guys, and Smokey rolls out the side of the door, and he's our starting goalie that night. But Smokey could play. I mean, he was one of the best goalies in the world hockey, but he was a character. Yeah.
What? How about fighting for Calgary in the WHA? Did you any fights there for you? I mean, it was legendary league for that, like the Minnesota Fighting Saints were a crazy team.
So I was, quite a, I was a skilled guy. I could run the power play, but I could also handle myself awfully well. Like in junior, my victims were like Harold Schneps, Gillies, Nystrom. So when you put all those guys down, nobody bothers you. Like the funniest one in junior was I bricklayed my last year before junior at this pulp mill in Alberta. So I had a 40-pound brick in my hand for 10 hours a day. And then I go work out in the evening and run, So I was in pretty good shape. So there was 2,000 men in that camp. And Bechtel, which is the big U.S. company at the time, their base was in Edmonton. And I was a softball pitcher for the camp. So they all came to this game in Edmonton, and Schnepsy challenged me to a fight. And I wasn't looking for it, but I go, okay. So I hit him with one punch, and I broke his nose, his jaw, and about 4 chiclets. And he's laying down on the ice, and he's trying to get up, and he's holding the boards. And I said, Harold, don't even think about getting up. I said, the fight's over. I said, next punch, I'll kill you, So 20 years later, I run into him at a celebrity golf tournament. Harold comes running up to me. He said, George, you remember that fight? I said, yeah. I said, Harold, it wasn't too pretty. He said, yeah. He said, it wasn't the broken jaw or the broken nose or the chiclets that I remember. I said, Harold, but what else was there? And he said, the force of the punch was so hard that it popped the helmet off his head. That's what he remembers. Yeah. So back to Joe Crow. It's funny you said that, because so I'm like he always called me his secret weapon and all this shit, So one day in practice, he always carried a big wad of cash in his pocket, and he had these Coke bottle glasses and carried this glass coffee cup while practice going on. After practice, he says, you remind me an awful lot of a guy named Pat Price, who's the number 1 pick in the WHA one. And we played junior together, Pricey, and, the puck handling this and that. He said, but I want you to be my goon, he says. He says, you can handle yourself. And they didn't have many tough guys, or hardly any tough guys. And he starts firing money all over the ice. Like there's probably $1,000 laying on the ice. He's just tossing the bills around. Said, I'll tear that contract up, and we're going to, I said, Joe, if somebody's, I'm not going to go looking for it, but I said, I'll be there to help the guys up. And, I'm not going to be a nutball, I thanked him. Well, I shouldn't have thanked him because, he was semi nuts, basically, Yeah. So, this is bad. I played the first game with Calgary in Quebec City when the Rick Giazio, when he knocked out Tardif, who was the star.
Oh, yeah, Tardif.
The year before, I heard Giazio was had no ethics, and I guess he checked Tardif, and he was semi out, and then he slugged him on the way down, And then when Tardif hit the ice, he was in the hospital for a long time. And
Wow.
Tardif he was like in Montreal hockey or
Yeah.
Quebec is
Yeah.
God. And
Yeah.
Smokey told me that night he had to swing his goal stick just to get him to the dressing room. The cops wouldn't help him. It
Wow.
was like a mob scene, like from Rocket Richard, riot and
Yeah.
all that.
Yeah.
So then, sure enough, the next year, and there's lawsuits flying all over the place. And we played the Nordiques the first time. Jaws was not supposed to fight. So naturally, Nordiques had all their clowns like Gilles the Robot Bilodeau and Wally Weir and Brackenbury. And like they had 5, they called up guys from. So every time Jaws was on the ice, those guys were on the ice. Like you could have just cut the air with a knife. And naturally I was out there, and stuff. But it was a pretty tense game, that game in Quebec City.
Nice. Yeah. Nice.
So George, I got to ask you, how'd you transition to Europe from North America? Like what transpired to get you to leave North America to go play in Europe?
Well, what happened was Calgary Cowboys went bankrupt. So I had a 2-year, one-way contract. So after the first year, they went bankrupt. And I know that the Islanders, which was kind of silly, they were kind of interested in me. And then I sent out probably 70 letters to all the European teams just for fun. And sure enough, HC or HC Davos, which was one of the top club teams in Switzerland, the traditional, where they play the Spangler Cup. They got back to me, and I kind of said to myself, oh, geez, maybe I'll go over to Europe there. And I think that was part of the problem. I was having too much fun in Switzerland. I won everything in the country, like best D and best import and all that. I played it might have been in 2 games. One game, 60 minutes. I never changed the entire game. So
incredible.
So,
wow.
And I was flying an outdoor rink up at 4,000 feet, and I had the Jets. It was like I found my love of hockey again, and it was only a 5-month season. I remember we had 28 league games. I scored 28 goals as a D, and import thereafter. Like you're basically like Moses when you're an import player over there. If you're down by 2 goals after the second period, you got 40 eyeballs, looking at you to see what kind of miracles you can pull off. And so 5-month season, and I traveled for 7 months. So I thought that's a pretty good gig.
Yeah.
I was basically all over the planet. And I think I didn't make my comeback. What happened was I played 3 years in Switzerland. And if you played 5 consecutive years, you could become a non-import. So I'd have my gold card, and I'd still be fairly young. Like I could just ask for anything, which I already did in my contracts. And they stopped that after the 3rd year. The Swiss are kind of ruthless that way. They just always, I could have probably contested in the courts, but it would have, probably taken a long time and all that. Mm-hmm. And then I decided to make my comeback to the Oilers, and I almost made them. I was playing with Risto Silton, and actually Slatsy accused us of passing the puck too much, if you can believe that, with the Oilers, But I think I let it right after the first Swiss season. I should have come back because I was flying, and actually Joe the Crow, of all guys, the loon, he was coaching the Maple Leafs after my 3rd year in Switzerland. And he got wind that I was in Toronto. I first stopped in Montreal, and they were in the final. But yeah, and I was in right away. He wanted to get me right on the ice. Like he wanted to get my gear, put my gear on, and he knew I could play. And Georgie Morrison, I think he was there too. Anyway, I played a little joke on the Crow to get back to him because I'd gotten hurt in the playoffs there, and I think I had a cast on my one arm. So I hid that when I went to meet the Crow, and I was going to put my gear on, and then I flipped my right arm to him with the cast on. I said, "Oh, sorry, Crow, but I don't think I can go to the pond right now."
Hey George, what's your wildest story from playing overseas? Just so we don't gloss over, your time
Uh,
in Europe.
oh boy, wildest story playing overseas. Well, I guess probably one of the craziest. I was playing my first year in Hamburg, Germany, with this Russian, Alexei Mishin. And he was the first Russian allowed to go out to play. And our team wasn't, Alexei and I basically carried the team. And we were playing this team, Essen. And the joke going around was if you had a German Shepherd dog in Canada, you qualified to be a German Canadian, a non-import. And we're playing these guys, and they have 10 Canadian players. They have eight German Canadians, Topolinski and Inkpen, these the two imports. And we're down 8-0 after the second period. And I completely lost it. And so did the Russian. The Russian could speak enough German to say that the German guys have hearts of peas, and that's how big they were. And I said, Alex, I said to the guys, things are going to change in the third period, and it's going to be respectable, and I'm going to get things go. Oh yeah, and then this one guy, Sohatsky, he later became one of the owners of the Oilers when they had those 22 owners. They own a big shipping company or trucking company in Northern Alberta. Anyway, he was teasing me about the score. He's a German Canadian, basically like a plumber, I said, Simon, I said, your face is going to be in the glass the whole third period. I'm going to run the shit out of you, just so you know. So when we started the third period, I pitchforked about 7 of the Canadians on the bench to start things. And then I think they knew me, the other guys from Pro. And then the biggest guy in Germany, this Canadian guy who's about 6'8" or whatever, he came over to try to calm me down. I told him I was going to beat the shit on him to go back to the bench. Anyway, to make a long story short, we came back and scored 7 goals. It was 8-7. We pulled our goalie and we almost tied it. So it was 8-7. But I still when I lose it, it's game over. Like, there's no return. So after the game, I wouldn't even eat with it. Yeah, I was still pissed off. And I'm walking to the dressing room, and our owner, he looked like Don King, and he was a nut. Like, he didn't know anything about hockey. Some of these guys in Europe, it's all profile and all that. So I saw him there, and he's laughing about the game. And I said, Nicholas, there's nothing to laugh about here. So I ripped the door off the hinges in the dressing room and hammered him over the top of the head with the door. And he's underneath, and I jumped on the door now on my skates, and I'm balancing myself under the door, and he's screaming for me to let him go. So I finally relented, and I let him go. And he had a big horn on his head. And for all those antics, they wrote, I think, a 2-page write-up in the German paper about me going crazy that night,
Ed,
You
have a
mentioned
question
wild
for George?
owners. Do you have any good stories about the team that was sponsored by Gaddafi while you were in Germany?
Yeah, that's you guys. You obviously know I played there. So I was there. I left Berlin after 5 years. They gave me like an awfully good contract to leave the city of sin, Berlin. And this guy Weifenbach that owned the team, he had all these brothels, but Heinz was probably one of the only guys that really knew the players and knew stuff. But this guy would do anything to keep, and he wanted to win the championship so bad. So I remember one time during the season, we were supposed to go to the park at 6:00 in the morning. How do you wake up hockey players at 6 in the morning to go down the park? Only Heinz says it's payday. He had been probably in the underground in Paris, God knows where, for a couple of weeks. Pulls up in the park with his 500 SEL, and he's got 20 paper bags in there. When everyone's got your name on it, and that's how we got paid the one time. So now we think we're getting a new sponsor, and all of a sudden he comes in the dressing room with his bodyguard. This guy, he looked like the guy in Jaws, in the James Bond movie with the gold silver teeth. And he had a gun on each side of this big leather jacket. This guy, he had the biggest hands I've seen on a human. And he's standing beside Heinz, and Heinz has got this scroll in his hands. And we had 10 Canadians on the team there. And at the end, we don't know we think we're going to get this cement company as our new sponsor. And at the end, Heinz says, Muammar Gaddafi, who happened to be a terrorist at the time, was throwing 10 million marks into our team. And we all looked at each other and go, holy fuck. I said to the guys, listen, guys, whatever we do, we can't get on a losing streak with this guy. I don't know what he's going to be like, you know? And we couldn't believe it. Like, we were in disbelief that this is really going on. And I think Heinz even paid the referees off to, like, this guy, basically, he was the Robin Hood of this city in Germany. And like the stuff he pulled, like every TV, ABC, NBC, every TV network in the world was there for our premier game. And we had jersey with M. Gaddafi and the Green Book, which was his propaganda book he gave all Libyans. We showed up on the ice with that. Like, even the other team, Rosenheim, were the German champs at the time. They didn't even believe this was going to happen. And it was quite the premiere, I'll tell you that.
That's amazing.
Yeah. We were supposed to go see Gaddafi at Christmas, and because we have a 2-week break where the national team plays and this and that, and no one could get close to him. And then after, when we went, like, the German secret police came in, and Yaroslav Puzar, who was in Edmonton, Yarrow and I were the only guys we had left for the weekend, and came back, and we came to the rink, and there's these guys in the front, and they're asking us if we were hockey players, and we thought, this guy wanted an autograph or something like that. It was the SWAT team from the German government, and they're all ready to put us in the paddy wagons. And it was pretty comical because they took us in to interrogate us, and Yarrow right away said to me, I can't speak any German, and I can't speak any English. So we did this charade, and I can speak Croatian. I spoke Croatian to him, and he answered me back in Czech. And we did that for about a half an hour to piss the cops off, and or the squad, the secret police, and it was something, I'll tell you.
So no ripping doors off the hinges and beating the owner with the door.
Heinz was too good. He was like I said, of all the owners, I swear he was the only guy that really knew the capabilities of the players, and like, he'd do anything, which he did that year. We called him Merlin the Magician, this accountant he had with corporation and all this. So he handed in a standard contract to the tax department, and then we made about 10 times more than that standard contract in our real contracts. Like Heinz would, like one time I was the year before, they were playing Dusseldorf in the playoffs. The capacity was 7,500 in Iserlohn, and there was probably 14,000 in the building.
Wow.
He paid the fire marshal off, opened all the doors up on the top. The European rinks, the boards to the stands, there's a huge, like, when they cheered, the building like shook. There were so many people, inside, because they asked him in the morning if it was sold out, and he said it's never been sold out. So he told his girlfriend to just print up a few thousand black tickets for the game that night. Yeah.
George, I want to ask you about the book. I want to ask you what inspired you to write the book, and you got to tell everybody that's watching about how you chose the title of the book.
Yeah, well, it basically implies I kind of weave into the game and weave out of the game. I found a lot of the books, I should say boring a bit, like the normal books. And I was born here, where I kind of tell it the way it is. So the fourth period between the ice sheets, and probably my doubles part. Well, I mentioned at the beginning of the book, he was one of the biggest criminal lawyers in Canada, Western Canada. He was my doubles partner in tennis. And all my buddies, they'd hear all these crazy stories, and they kept telling me to write a book. And then after I retired, you get into doing so many things. I wrote a bit, back and forth. And then finally, when I kind of semi-retired, I said, that's it. I'm going to put pen to paper, and I'm going to finish this 3D, or not 3D, but 3X hockey book, Yeah. It's a bit unvarnished, I'd say, and a bit raw. Yeah.
Now,
Yeah.
is there a story in the book that you debated whether you put it in or you don't put it in?
Oh, I don't think so. Although I had, and you'd know this guy, you know, Paul Stewart, the ex
Oh, we
tough
had him
guy
on. Yeah.
referee.
Yep.
Yeah, Paul. There was my time in the World Hockey with Calgary and the farm team. I was playing for the Erie Blades. Paul was with Binghamton, I think, and they kind of thought they were the class of the league, which I kind of described as AC Delco leagues, like it was, that I had my one-way contract, whatever. But Jazio plays in this, and I wanted to get the story right because it was a little bit foggy. And we were playing, there was a guy named Jimmy Troy, I think Troy and Paul were the two tough guys with Binghamton. And Jazio, myself, and a guy named Andre Deschamps, who got machine gunned in Quebec in a bar one time before he was a first round pick. Anyway, what happened during the game, I know that I thought the story was that these two guys got beat up, Paul and Troy, during the game, and then after they went in and broke the referee's nose and got suspended and all that. And anyway, what really happened, and Paul was a pretty tough guy.
Yeah.
And we kibitz back and forth today. There's a lot of respect for each other. During that game, I thought after there was a fight, and Jaws had just taken his stick and just slashed him across the face. That's what Jaws was like. He'd do anything. Paul had 63 stitches put in, and it was a mess. And then the next game, there was their team actually tried to come after us after the game. Paul's dad, I think, used to be a referee. I think Larry Kish was the coach there. Anyway, I had to get that story straightened out because I had forgot a little bit about, it's a pretty cowardly act. There's a bit of respect amongst tough guys, crossing the line and all that. And so I got a hold of Paul just about that story to make sure that I got it right. Yeah. Yeah.
George, was there a chapter in the book that you felt kind of emotional about writing?
I guess I viewed it, a lot of time had gone by. These are all true stories. And that's a good question. No, there's tons and tons of stories in the book about, and it's a bit different naturally because I played in the pros, I played in Europe, played in Switzerland, played in Germany, all the different teams like Flin Flon Bombers I played in junior with. They were having a reunion of probably 500 players. They're quite a famous team. That's where, Reggie Leach and Clark come from. And they told you to write down the teams from when you played junior till the end of pro. And I had a really good buddy from Saskatchewan. I couldn't make the reunion. Anyway, I was the record holder, though, in the Hall of Shame, 26 teams from junior to the end of pro. So, with 26 teams, there's a lot of stories, Yeah. Yeah.
Have you had any former teammates reach out to you about reading the book or their involvement at
Yeah,
all?
yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Oh no, anybody that wish they had
That
been
wants
more.
to lock me up or put me in jail?
Well, good feedback
I
about
did
the
it.
book from
Yeah, the only I swear to God, the only negative comment I had so far was a guy from the States. He was Italian descent, and he was upset that I called Lou Angotti a wop, because he was an Italian guy. And just maybe the First Nations here too, I called the natives chiefs, because I'm talking in that era. So I'm not going to be politically correct to write the book. I'm writing the way it was, back then. So, yeah.
as we we're going to start winding down. We
Okay.
hit the hour mark, but we want to get a couple more questions in. Ed, you got a question for George?
Sure. I'm going to ask you. Do you follow hockey at all right now, or do you not watch it at all?
Oh yeah, I still love the game. A lot of the guys, some of the guys I know are in coaching today. I like the skill teams a lot. You know, I like the Avalanche, but it just seems like the team, the first place team, it's like they blow their load during the year, and then they get into the playoffs, and it it just ain't that easy. You know.
Yeah,
First the President's Trophy for sure.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, it's like it has a curse in a bit of a way. You know.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
I mean, the Avalanche, I mean, the unbelievable team. It's just like the year Boston lost to Florida.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, record setting, everything. I found it just sad that year because I think it was Krejci and Bergeron's last years, and
Yep.
it'd been nice for them to go out as winners.
Yep.
But that's just the way the cookie crumbles.
Yep. Yep.
And then when you're the top dog, everybody's after you too.
Right.
They're up to play against you big time.
Yep.
I have the last picture. Your buddy would like this. The last picture taken of Bobby Orr, he was in a Blackhawk uniform. And the only reason I got it is because Shaky Walton and Orr used to have a hockey school together in Ontario. And I played against Shaky's brother, Rob Walton, who was a hell of a hockey player. That's another story. I have some Rob Walton stories because the boys, like Rob Walton, for example, his last game in Switzerland, he was a gifted player, but he was a bit crazy. Howie McKinney was there. He was in on a breakaway in Rapperswil, the team that he played for, and he took his glove off and fingered the fans because he wasn't enjoying himself, stuff like that, Yeah.
I got to ask you, what's your all-time favorite road trip story?
Ooh, road trip. Oh boy, this is a good one. Oh, I think you've hit the nail on the head here. It'd probably have to be with California because everything went on in California. And I was rooming with a guy named Frank Spring. He was a first round pick of Boston, I think, back in the day.
Oh, okay.
And Frank, he was, the guy, but typical. He'd fall asleep during the game, party all night, that kind of thing. And he had bulked himself up in that training camp. And you guys know Freddie Ahern. Do you remember Freddie?
I know the name.
Ahern?
Yeah.
He's a Massachusetts guy. And I kept telling Frankie, I said, he was in the cold tub most of training camp. You just see the bubbles, and you could see the two holes there. And I said, every day I'd say to Frankie, I think you better get out of that tub there because Ahern's playing pretty good, Anyway, make a long story short, Frank got sent down the farm team, and Freddie rented his house for the season, and he made the team. So anyway, we used to call Frank Frankenstein. He's from Cranbrook, British Columbia. So Frank did not know probably which city we're in if he didn't have his itinerary. So well, there are many Frank stories, but this one's probably takes the cake. We're in Long Island. He's accusing me of banging this babe with a paper bag over my head with holes cut out, and she's a female referee, which I don't know where Frank dreamed this. It wasn't true or anything, honest to God, Frankie Valley, honest to God. So anyway, I got to get back at Frankie for this one, so he's firing this rumor around. So he gets the babe and he comes back to the room, and, and Frankie's, getting ready to do the dirty deed and everything. And all of a sudden, from one leap from my bed to the edge or the heater or whatever in the room, I jump on there, eyes closed, and I'm cawing like a crow. So this girl is getting, pretty excited and pretty scared, So Frankie calms her down and he says, "Oh, don't worry about my roommate." He says he sleepwalks and he's a bit delusional and everything. Just, he'll go back to bed again. And I just jumped in my bed like nothing happened, right? So then this is to get him back for the bag story. So then Frankie's sweet talking the babe again, and everything else. And they're going to, do the dirty deed again. Except the crow had other aspirations there. The crow jumped from his bed to Frankie's bed on top of the girl and flapping my arms like a crow and screaming like a crow. And the poor broad, I think she almost had a heart attack. And she didn't even get dressed. She just grabbed her gear and just ran out in the hall and ran to the elevator. And Frankie's all over me, Frank Frankenstein. And he said, "What are you doing there?" And I said, "Well, Frank, you spread that malicious story about the bag, the paper bag and the female referee. So, I had to get back to you, get back at you somehow, normal 70s stuff,
Fantastic.
I got an even worse one. How bad can I tell stories?
Go ahead.
Okay. This is without a doubt the most shots in a warm-up in an NHL game in history. We're playing in Atlanta. Gilles Meloche, who's a pretty damn good goalie, and Cobra Simmons are back out. And guys are racing to center ice. It's like a relay race, 3 lines to get a puck, shoot at Gilles. Gilles probably had 200 shots. Goalies, so they just want certain things, and they're pretty fussy about shots and all that. Gilles probably had 200 shots already on goal, and he's going crazy. And he's French, Esti Tabernac, and he's going nuts. And I said, "Gilles," I said, "don't you know what's going on?" He said, "No." I said, "Well, Gilles, take a look behind you." So every time a guy would come shoot on the net, there was a famous group. There was quite a few of them, Big Red and Chicago Shirley, and I named them all in my book there. Big Red, she had this flaming red hair and body like unbelievable. And every time a guy would come down and shoot on the net, she would flip her dress up on the boards and had no panties on. And the lips were on the glass. And that's what the guys would see in 3D. And Gilles saw this and he goes, "Holy tabernacle," he goes, and he throws his stick and gloves and he said, "Cobra, get in here for the rest of the warm-up." And it was so then after the warm-up, I'm skating off to go to the dressing room, and there's the workers there that getting ready to do the ice. And I said, "Hey, by the way, guys, you better clean the glass behind the net." I said, it's pretty messy. I said,
Oh my God.
Yeah.
So is that a chapter in the book, Lips on the Glass?
Lips on the Glass is in there. Big Red. Oh yeah. And then
I love it.
Chicago Shirley, I don't know if you guys ever heard of her. She was the most famous groupie of all time.
Wow.
And she had been retired, but the SEALs had this aura about them. They're West Coast and kind of crazy, love to party. She came out of retirement because the SEALs were in town in Chicago, and she was from Chicago. That's Tex Evans, who was our coach. That was the longest pregame meal in NHL history when Chicago came out of retirement. So I don't know if you want me to fill you in on that one, but you probably can think maybe what happened. But
for the young hockey fans watching at home, you should fill them all in.
Well, do you want me to tell that one?
Sure.
Oh, you guys really want it bad. So so I'm a young guy. I'm a rookie. I'm like 21 years old, and I hear from all these veterans that Chicago's coming to retirement. She was done. Banging like all the teams in the NHL. And then, so we're having our pregame meal, and the guys just kept, Tex Evans, we used to call him a little stone face, because he'd never smile or anything. And he's just watching the buffet, and he's watching back and forth and the desserts and the food. And he's thinking, how can these gluttons play tonight? Like, he's never seen this. Like, the meal must have gone for 3 hours. Because Chicago was under the table doing some servicing. And you could see when the light went on each time, and just watch, and Chicago, I think she did about two rounds at the dinner table and declared herself back. She said she's back for the SEALs, So Tex never knew what happened, except it was the longest pregame meal in NHL history, Yeah.
Awesome.
It's great.
Sorry.
That's great.
George, I got to ask you.
They're all in the book. They're all in the
That's,
book.
yep.
Yeah.
All over the
And
book.
the reason why I'm not going to prison is because my girlfriend's quite wealthy. She helped a lot with the editing. So I said, they always go after the person with, most money. So you're going to prison, I told her.
You know what? We're promoting the book, George, and we hope that somebody comes across this or some of the other social media that you've done and makes a movie out of that book.
Actually, it's, you know what the deal is? Like, I got that publishing company, Pan American, after me right now. But I told them about the rights. I know it'd make a great Netflix. And actually, the guy that I want to get a book is into his hands is Tom Hanks.
Oh,
And
wow.
the reason is because I really like him as an actor, and I think he's a good guy. But Tom grew up in Oakland.
Oakland, yeah.
And I know he's a big hockey fan. And he worked in our concessions when I played there. He flipped burgers. So I just thought he'd be a great guy to go to just because of that fact. But I know that the tales I got in there, it would make a great like Netflix story. Yeah.
Maybe even a mini series, a whole series, a whole,
Oh yeah, it could easily, like, all the stops and places. And
Yeah.
It'd be great.
30 years of professional hockey for sure.
Yeah.
Now you'd have to figure out who's going to play Chicago for you. What girl's going to play Chicago?
Yeah, or what girl's going to play Big Red?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then we probably had the most famous gal in Oakland. Her name was the Steel Worker. And the funniest one about that is I did not know. She knew every practice, every time. And there was a guy, I don't know if you guys ever ran across him online, but he was the Howard Cosell impersonator. And he was a great guy, and I got to be friends with him online. And one day we're chatting, and I said, the Steel Worker, and I described this blonde with the fur coat. He said, shit, she lived on my street. And I said, holy shit. I said, what the hell did she do? Like, and then I found out that she worked for the newspaper, but we never knew that.
Wow.
That she worked for the newspaper. And as soon as the SEAL season was over, there she was with her Oakland A's gear on. And she probably has a picture gallery, bar none, yeah, the Steel Worker. That's what they called her. Yeah.
Nice.
Awesome.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah. And then there's Bathtub Mary and Susie Sink, and there's
It's like Glow, Andy.
Yeah.
Yeah. And there's the machine in Philly. Well, she was in Richmond, and we all thought the Richmond Robins, when I played there my first year there, were all getting traded to the New York Rangers, the entire team, because this guy, I think his first name was Rick Ball, a scout for the Rangers. I don't think he scouted any other game except for our Richmond Robin game, because the machine had this porno library with about 10,000 tapes. And when training camp was on in Philly, they had the service elevator booked off for the machine to do her dirty deeds. Yeah.
It's great.
Yeah. Just normal fans,
Just
Yeah.
normal family style entertainment.
Yeah.
They were good
for the whole
they're all
family.
good sports. Good sports. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
So
Yeah.
George, we appreciate your time. We're not wrapping it up just yet because I want Ed and Derek to ask you at least one more question, and I'll finish with the question I ask everybody that's been on. So Ed, final question for George. He's been great.
Oh man.
I'm gonna keep it just kind of plain because I can't ask you. I can't compete with those stories right there. So I'm just gonna ask you. Over your 30 years of playing professional hockey, how did you stay in shape to be able to do that? And anybody that's ever strapped on skates once in their life and actually played, to be out there for 60 minutes, I mean that's an incredible feat. So how did you kind of like keep yourself in shape over the 3 decades?
I actually touch upon it in my book. I had, how you have this training regime all the time. Every year when I go back to Saskatoon, Saskatchewan, I'd run this arch tower, 14 floors, 22 steps on each floor. wood, so they give, so it's not as hard in the legs. And I had this training regime that I would do. Plus, I was like I was an ace squash player. Uh, I was a pro softball pitcher. I could play a lot of sport. Tennis, I almost made a pro tournament. I didn't take the sport up till I was 20. So I trained, I trained pretty hard in the off season, to play like that 60-minute game. The coach kept, because we were going for the championship, and we were down to 3Ds, and every period he asked me, I said, no problem. I said, and I'd rush the puck, and then I'd circle back and play D, and they actually, the Swiss press, their nickname for me was the Iron Man. They called me the Iron Man of Swiss hockey. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
So Derek, final question for George.
Well, first of all, you weren't just named best defenseman in the Swiss League your first year. You were named it 3 straight years. So I think the 1973 podcast should campaign that the Norris Trophy of the Swiss League should be the George Pesut Trophy.
I think so.
Jeez.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Yeah. And also, I was the first single import in 8 years in Davos. So
Wow.
that was great for the Swiss girls, and yeah.
So with all the teams you played for, did you have a favorite sweater that you wore? Do you still have it, or was it one of your favorites, the color or the design?
Well, I know the Seals jersey, like about 8 years ago or whatever, the NHL did a contest.
Yes, and
I
were
think
up
the
there.
Seals jersey ended up in 3rd place at the time.
Yep.
I mean, I love the old, I love the Chicago Blackhawk jersey. I like the Rangers too, but probably Chicago was my most famous. I had I probably had, I don't know, 25. I gave every jersey I had away to friends. My last one, it was 55. Mercedes was sponsoring Germany. I gave it to my oldest son. Except I 5 was always my number, and I had 55 on that. And I think I might have erred because some of the fans were thinking maybe I was 55, age-wise. So
the Reg Dunlop of the league, yeah.
Yeah, because I had my right knee done 8 times, 8 procedures, left once, pins in my ankle. I played a half a game in Germany with a broken leg, scored the winner in the 3rd, and I played a half a game with 6 broken ribs. So yeah. Yeah. So you were Moses, playing there. Yeah. Yeah.
All right, George. Before we get to my final question that I always ask, I wanted you to let everybody know that comes across this where they can buy the book, and if you have personal items that you sign, or do you sign the book, or how can people get a hold of you for, all things George?
Well, the book is available on Amazon because it's a self-published right now, unless I do this deal with Pan American. And I've had a few requests. Just the tricky part is the payment with the US, with the Canadian system, that kind of thing. I'm not sure if in Canada, actually, I think people can go to the bookstore and ask for the book, and they'll order it in the bookstore.
Okay.
So I'm assuming you can do that in the States also, that way. So, and then, I've had people ask for it. So, they just pay the extra freight for the autograph copy. I've done book signings like that. Like when I was at the Expo card show, it's too bad. Amazon messed up on order. I'd sold out all my books, and then I was at the NHL alumni luncheon with Ken Reed, the Sportsnet guy, and one kid that survived the Humboldt Bronco, that terrible crash where all the kids, and there's 150, diehard hockey guys there, and I had sold out all my books. I didn't have a book left.
Wow.
The guys want me to come back this year again, so maybe I will go back to. It was a great show, and the Toronto guys were really great, real accommodating. So
nice.
Yeah, but that's where you can buy the 4th period between the ice, and then my subtitle is hockey on 2 continents. So because it is, it throws both, but I know that it seems like this publisher, they're in the top 5, I guess. They like the unvarnished, the raw part, and it's not ghostwritten. I wrote it all myself and edited. That was the painful part, the editing, because I had a professional editor. Didn't do. I don't think sport was their gender, so it had to be. It took. It was a big delay. I like about 5 people on that and stuff, but I think like I've told you some of the stories, but there's a whole lot of stories, and I guess no holds barred kind of,
We like it.
Yeah,
We like it.
love it. Yeah.
Yeah, actually, if you guys want a PDF, I can send you a PDF.
Sure.
It's not the total finished copy, but if you want, I can send you guys a PDF.
I think that we'll end up buying a book anyway.
I'm going to buy the book. Yeah, absolutely.
We try to collect the books of everybody that's been on the show, and we'll pump tires. We'll try to get as much out of there as we can, George, for you.
Yep.
Yeah. Oh, I know I've had some good. There's I'm trying to think. He's in Rhode Island, I think. Farrell, a little guy who was in Europe, but you know Billy Bennett probably. He played with Boston a little bit. The Bennett brothers. Dad was a goalie for Boston.
Yep.
Billy, Harvey, and Kurt. Yeah, Billy was a teammate in Wichita, Kansas.
Yep.
And that's a chapter in my book. It's Edmonton's farm team, and it was probably the craziest team I've ever played. I played a lot of crazy teams, but Ace Bailey was the coach then of our team there, and it was wild. Yeah.
Nice.
So, George, before we let you go, I always ask everybody that we've had on the show this one last question to close the show.
You want to know how old I am?
No.
73 today.
73.
No, you guys, you're wrong, because I pay $50 for a post office box in Hollywood, because all those stars lie about their age 10 years.
So, what's ironic before I get to my final question is 73 on the 1973 podcast.
Perfect.
It's perfect. It's absolutely perfect on your birthday. So my final question.
And that's when I graduated from junior. That's when I turned pro in 73.
That's the year we were born.
The stars of a line.
Awesome.
Yeah. It couldn't have gone any better. George, listen, if you had to describe your hockey journey in one word, what would it be?
One word. I don't know if I can say one word. It just, I was very fortunate to play the game of love for 21 years for a living. 40 was kind of like a magic number, and I made it to 40. And the right knee only 8 times. The orthopedics, it was a medical wonder from 35 to 40. That I could still play. You have to play at a high level to play in the European as an import, player.
Sure.
So I always kept my level. I was a very skilled guy too, and I think I even got better in Europe. Handling. I played with Russians, national players, and I could do. I swear I could sell my hands to a lot of the NHL players today. Just the sauce pass and all the little tricks of the trade.
Nice.
Yeah.
And playing 60 minutes a game. That's
can cut down you can cut down on the payroll. You don't need 60.
You go.
5 games in one day.
Yeah, why not?
Yeah, normal stuff.
Yeah.
I'll tell you one last story, you guys, if you got time.
Sure.
So I'm playing 15 years old. I'm playing senior hockey, which is pretty good in Saskatchewan at the time, and I'm the big high scoring centerman. And we're playing the native team the first game. And that was my baptism, because I'm taking my shot in the warm up, and all of a sudden this big native girl just grabs me by the hair and slams my head down on the boards, and then the chief comes by and just sucker punches me in the head. And that was my baptism to First Nations hockey. I said,
wow,
I got to pay a little more attention when we're playing the tribes.
Yeah, I bet. Yeah.
And then they get liquored up, and usually by the third period it's a full out war out there.
So, George, I want to officially welcome you as a friend of the show. We're going to stay in touch. I'm going to, do the best I can to, get this out there, and it'll probably come out this weekend. Seeing that it's Father's Day weekend, it'll give me time to get it out to the
my God.
masses. And I'll send you
Yeah,
the
I have to tell you one thing though.
Sure.
It is parental guidance, so the book.
okay.
I would say over 16 for sure.
Okay.
That's the best
Okay.
content right there.
All right. Well, our core audience is usually 35 to 60, so they're good.
Yeah.
They're good.
Yeah.
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 Nothing but love from the boys, George. Happy
Thank you.
birthday.
But happy birthday.
Thanks for showing up and
Happy 63rd, right, you guys?
yeah.
There you go.
Yep.
All you guys got to lie for me,
We will.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
You guys, it was a pleasure meeting you and a pleasure talking to you guys, and I appreciate you wanting me on the show.
Oh,
And,
it was
Thank
a
you
pleasure.
very much.
George.
This is all ours. Thank you. So,
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
and I'll send you the PDF there
Okay.
to have a peek at there, and
Okay.
you'll see that the stories are real.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I believe you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I should have had the 3X maybe on the front cover there,
You can surprise some people.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah, they get surprised. Yeah.
Yeah.
Much love, George. I appreciate it. We'll stay in touch.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, guys, and
Happy birthday, sir.
Thank you, George.
all the best to you.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank
Have a
you.
good one.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And be careful when I might be in New England one of these days,
Hey,
Hey.
let us know.
Absolutely. Yeah.
We'll
Okay,
we'll come-
record, last story.
Sure.
Sure. Flin Flon Bombers. I had to show the guys that my talent with drinking draft beers. Blaine Stoughton at the time was our captain. Blaine and I were good buddies. 19 draft and a second and a half apiece. So 27 seconds for 19 draft.
Respect.
And then three natives ran me over with a pickup truck going to the NW outside of town that night. And I still played the whole road trip. I was passed out in the ditch for about 2 hours.
Iron Man does it right.
Iron
there.
Man lives. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Thank you, George. Happy birthday.
Okay, guys. Thanks
Happy
a lot.
birthday. Thank you very much.
Thanks for your time. Appreciate
Thank you so much,
it.
George.
Have a good night.
Take care. Same to you guys.
Okay. See ya.
Ciao.